"This is the prenup, read it." The voice was as icy as the man himself, pushing the document across the table toward me. 3 years, $50 million, zero interference, except for required appearances, no physical contact whatsoever. I stared at the man who was breathtakingly handsome yet unreachable. Ethan, the light I had chased for 10 years. I smiled, lifted the thin sheet of paper, and, to his astonishment, tore it slowly in half. "I don't agree to the prenup, and I don't want the money." His brows snapped together, impatience brimming in his eyes. "Stella, what game are you playing now? I only need you to honor one clause," I answered, meeting his scrutiny word for steady word. "The most basic marital duty." A sneer tugged at his lips, as though I'd told the world's biggest joke. "You honestly think you can?" Before he could finish, I raised a finger, wagged it, then pointed at his own, distinctly ridged and instinctively curled. "Every day, let me hold hands for 1 minute, starting right now." Ethan's expression solidified into stone, an alloy of absurdity, wariness, and a flicker of unmistakable panic. He must have rehearsed 100 possibilities. More money, Sterling Corp shares, the full Sterling family title, even my claim on his body. Never would he have guessed I'd walk away from 50 million just to loop back and ask for 60 seconds of palm-to-palm contact. "Are you insane?" he finally rasped. Perfectly lucid. "Sterling." I dropped the shredded prenup into the wastebasket and lounged back. 50 million for 3 years averages over 40,000 a day. Now I want nothing but 1 minute. "You're coming out ahead, aren't you?" His gaze drilled into me as if I were some undocumented species. I knew the question clawing at him: what does this woman, who plotted her way into the Sterling family, really want? Exactly. Keep him guessing. Suspicious. Every neuron trained on me. Only then could I crack the decade-old armor welded shut around him. "If you can't manage that," I said, rising and stepping close enough to catch the cool cedar scent radiating from his skin, "then this marriage is pointless from the start." My gamble. He needed the union to weather family pressure and public scrutiny, and he'd yield to a harmless clause. Silence ballooned until it hurt. I felt his fractured breathing, the composure he clutched like a shield. At last he grated. "Fine." I beamed like a trap that had just snapped shut. "Excellent. Minute 1, timer starts now." Before the echo died, I shot my hand out and grabbed his. His body locked. It felt like touching a live wire. He jerked back hard. His skin was ice cold, fingertips trembling. I refused to let go. I forced my digits between his and interlaced our fingers. "Stella." He snarled my name, temples throbbing, eyes pouring fury and terror. Yes, terror, bright and unmistakable. 1,000 needle pricks assaulted my heart. "Ethan, 10 years, and your wound hasn't closed at all." 1 minute, I said, swallowing the ache, smiling up at him with brilliant shamelessness. "A deal's a deal, Sterling. No take-backs." He glared, chest heaving as though enduring slow torture. Cold sweat slid down his forehead. His palm turned clammy inside mine, second by second. Each tick stretched into a century. He stopped resisting, but remained a statue, letting me hang on while his eyes threatened to flay me alive. Beep. The phone timer announced the end. "Time's up." I released him cleanly, as if that iron-willed woman had never existed. "Pleasure doing business, Ethan," I chirped, switching to his first name with a conspiratorial wink. All strength seemed to rush out of him. He staggered back against the desk, dragging in ragged breaths. With his free hand he scrubbed the one I'd touched, as though wiping off a lethal virus. The sight knifed through me, yet my smile stayed flawless. "See you tomorrow." I turned, waved airily, and climbed the stairs to the room assigned to me. Only when the door clicked shut did my legs give way. I slid down the panels. Tears burst free, hot and relentless. "Ethan, you idiot, you saved me, then locked yourself inside that inferno. Now it's my turn to pull you out." I rose at dawn, when Ethan descended in a crisp tailored suit. The dining table already displayed a delicate breakfast: creamy oatmeal, pan-fried pot stickers, and crisp pickled vegetables. He crossed the room without a glance, heading straight for the foyer, clearly unwilling to spare a single second. "Skipping breakfast is bad for the stomach." "Sterling," I called, spooning oatmeal at leisure. His hand hesitated on his shoe. He didn't look back. "Not your concern." I drawled, "But I started cooking at 5 this morning," apparently deeming me unworthy of a syllable. He yanked the door open. Just then I added softly, "There's honey osmanthus cake, the kind you loved as a kid." His back snapped rigid. Slowly he pivoted. For the first time his fathomless eyes carried something other than frost or loathing, shock. The cake had been his late mother's specialty, a family recipe passed down from her southern roots. After she died, the Sterling Mansion kitchens never produced it again. Only he and the departed knew the memory existed. toasted. Meeting his probing stare, I beamed harmlessly and lifted a golden, pillowy square with my chopsticks. Try it, see if it tastes like childhood. He stood motionless for half a minute, then strode over and sat down, chopsticks in hand. He lifted a piece yet hesitated to bite. I waited in silence. Finally, he made his decision and placed the cake in his mouth. As he chewed, I caught the almost invisible reddening around his eyes. The meal ended in surreal quiet. He cleaned every plate, dabbed his mouth, and re-iced his features. How did you know? He demanded. Want the answer? I tilted my head. Earn it. Maybe by initiating handholding? His face blackened instantly. Don't push your luck. Okay, I shrugged. I'll tell you when I feel like it. He stood, ready to leave again. Wait, I sang out. Today's minute hasn't been cashed. His scowl deepened, but he stopped and offered his hand. Still cold, but perhaps a fraction less resistant. I curved my lips and clasped it. This time I didn't interlace. I merely traced slow circles on his broad palm with my fingertips. Long lifeline, I intoned like a carnival psychic. Deep, straight headline, career success. But I paused, sensing his suspended breath. Your heartline's broken, foretells a catastrophic love trial. He snorted. Nonsense. We'll see, I answered, eyes blazing into his. The minute passed. I let go. He snatched his hand away and practically fled the Lake Tahoe lakefront villa, his retreating figure half comic, half tragic, smiling at the empty doorway. I knew the iceberg had started to split. That evening Ethan returned from work and locked himself in the upstairs study. I didn't disturb him, took a shower, then accidentally emerged wearing only one of his white dress shirts. The hem barely skimmed my thighs. Wet hair draped over my shoulders, droplets trailing down my neck to vanish beneath the collar. Barefoot on thick carpet, I carried a glass of warm milk and knocked. Come in. I pushed the door open. He sat behind the desk, eyes on his laptop. Without glancing up, he asked, "What is it?" "Brought you milk, for better sleep." I set the cup beside him. Only then did he look. His gaze froze, sliding from my damp hair to the oversized shirt, swallowing me, finally resting on my bare legs. His Adam's apple bobbed involuntarily. Put on clothes. His voice was huskier, edged with barely leashed anger. My pajamas got soaked. I pouted, tugging the long sleeves. "So I borrowed your shirt. You don't mind, do you, Ethan?" "Out," he barked. Instead of retreating, I leaned closer, palms flat on the desk, gravity tugging the neckline wider. "But our minute isn't up yet." Warm breath, scented with shower gel, washed over his face. He shoved his chair back with a screech. Complexion flushed beneath the lamplight. "Stella," he ground out. "Present." I beamed and stretched out my hand. "Come on, hold it so I can go to sleep." He glared at me, eyes practically shooting sparks. Yet he was powerless. In the end, he reluctantly extended his hand. His palm was scorching. That night I slept fitfully. Near midnight, I was jolted awake by a muffled groan from the next room. Ethan. I threw off the quilt, didn't even stop for slippers, and rushed to his door. It wasn't locked. I twisted the handle and it opened. No light inside, only cold moonlight spilling through the floor-to-ceiling window, and sketching the figure curled on the bed. He was shaking all over, broken words tumbling from his lips. "Fire, don't come. Go away." A nightmare. He was dreaming of that blaze again. My heart twisted. I hurried to the bed. "Ethan, wake up." I tried to rouse him, but he was trapped in the nightmare and couldn't hear. His brows were locked tight, his face soaked in pain and terror, sweat plastering strands of hair to his forehead. I hesitated, then bent down and gently wrapped my arms around him. "Don't be afraid." I rested my head against his back and soothed him in the gentlest voice I'd ever used. "Don't be afraid. The fire's out. It's okay. I'm here." My embrace seemed to guide his frantic mind to a hint of calm. His trembling slowly ebbed. I didn't dare move, keeping my arms around him until his breathing grew long and even. Thinking he'd fallen asleep, I started to ease away when a burning hand suddenly seized my wrist. Startled, I met a pair of eyes that glittered in the dark. He was awake. "You." His voice was hoarse. "I heard you call, so I came to check," I whispered, guilty about barging in and hugging him, but he only stared at me, neither angry nor pushing me away. The hand gripping my wrist was startlingly strong, as though clinging to the last straw. "What did you say just now?" he asked. I said, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." In the dark I couldn't see his expression, but I felt the grip on my wrist loosen a little. We stayed like that, neither speaking. I thought he would tell me to leave when, instead, he tugged my hand, opened my palm, and slid his fingers, one by one, until they interlaced with mine. Not because I forced him. He did it on his own. This time his hand wasn't cold. It burned, slick with cold sweat. He clasped so tightly, it seemed to cost him all his strength. Time had long passed the 1-minute deal, but he didn't let go, and I didn't move. Soft moonlight bathed our joined hands outside the window. At that moment, I felt I had stepped a little closer to his heart. When I woke the next morning, I was actually in his bed, still holding his hand. Ethan was already gone. I ruffled my hair in frustration and sneaked back to my room. Downstairs, he sat at the breakfast table with the sandwiches I'd prepped last night. When he saw me, his gaze flicked away, ears faintly pink. "Morning," he said stiffly. "Morning, Ethan." I settled cheerfully across from him. Today, he seemed less allergic to the name. After breakfast, he stood to leave for Sterling Corp's Los Angeles headquarters. I trailed behind, studying his back, and noticed something new on his tailored suit's tie clip. A tiny silver puzzle cube. I'd bought a shipment of quirky gadgets online the other day and tossed it into his study pen holder, thinking his office too dull. I never thought he'd use it. My heart felt drenched in honey, syrupy sweet. The man who says the opposite of what he means. The Sterling family dinner arrived without warning. It was my first formal encounter with his relatives since marrying in. Before we left, Ethan handed me a velvet box. "Put it on," he said flatly. Inside lay a dazzling diamond necklace worth a fortune already gleaming. "What? Afraid I'll embarrass you?" I teased, fastening it obediently. He ignored the joke and only adjusted the clasp. His knuckles grazed my nape, sending a tingle across my skin. His movement stilled. My body froze. The air turned delicate. "Let's go." He broke the silence, pulled back, and strode off faster than usual. I watched the almost fleeing figure and couldn't help smiling. The Sterling mansion in Beverly Hills was opulent, but felt colder than a freezer. Victor sat like a monarch at the head, surveying me. Evelyn and his half-sister Angela threw disdain my way without disguise. "Big brother, you're home," Angela cooed, looping an arm through Ethan's yet refusing me a glance. "So this is your new wife. Looks quite ordinary." Before I could answer, Ethan smoothly freed his arm. "Angela, call her sister-in-law," he said, voice glacial. Angela stiffened and pouted. Throughout the meal, the undercurrents swirled. Evelyn kept fishing for my background, superiority dripping from every syllable. "Stella, I heard your parents are ordinary middle-class office workers. It must be hard for you, marrying into the Sterlings. Are you coping?" "Yeah, sis," Angela chimed in, flashing the pink diamond boulder on her wrist. "This bracelet could probably fund your parents for life. Ever seen a diamond this big?" The acid remarks drew snickers from a few cousins. My grip on my chopsticks tightened. I was about to retort when Ethan set his wineglass down with a sharp clink. Every gaze snapped toward him. He dabbed the corner of his mouth with a napkin, then lifted eyes that swept over Angela like frost. "Looks like your allowance is too generous, leaving you free to flaunt cheap rocks instead of learning manners." Angela's face went puce. "Bro, and Ethan turned to Evelyn, voice colder. "My wife doesn't need to adjust to anyone, nor does anyone need to adjust to her. Her presence is the rule." He paused. Every word was an ice pick driving into the room. "In future, whoever disrespects her disrespects me. Clear?" Silence fell like a stone. Victor's face was livid, yet no sound left his lips. Ethan rose, ignored them, and looked at me. In that instant, the frost in his eyes melted a fraction. "Let's go home." Then he did something that stunned everyone, including me. He stretched out his hand in front of the entire family. Not an order, not perfunctory, an invitation. I stared at that clean, long-fingered hand, my heart thudding. I laid my hand in his palm. He squeezed so tightly the warmth drove straight to my heart. Then he led me out of that suffocating mansion, never looking back, under a hail of shocked, jealous stares. In the returning car, the silence was surreal. The chauffeur in front, we in the rear, neither speaking. I watched the night city streak past, mind a mess. The scene at the mansion replayed endlessly. He had publicly defended me against his family. He had taken my hand on his own. I sneaked a glance sideways. He leaned against the seat, eyes closed. The profile looked carved and cold, yet somehow not frightening at all. Just as I thought he'd fallen asleep, he spoke. "Hand, huh?" I didn't catch up. Eyes still shut. He repeated. "Hand, give." My heart skipped. Tentatively, I reached over. He clasped it at once, so firmly I couldn't have pulled free. This was no one-minute bargain. He held my hand the whole way, never letting go. Only when we stopped at the Lake Tahoe villa did he release it, open his eyes, and say, "If they ever bully you again, tell me." My eyes burned instantly. To reward Ethan's knight in armor act, I decided to surprise him. The next day, I declared I was sick. A nasty cold, fever, every limb like lead. I lay in bed with a cooling patch on my forehead and rang him mid-meeting in a croaky wail. "Ethan, I feel awful." A few seconds of silence. Then his restraining voice, "Go see a private physician." I can't even get up, head spinning. no medicine in the house. I kept the misery coming. I'll have my assistant. No. I cut him off. I want you to come back. I hung up promptly, burrowed under the quilt, and worked on looking tragic. Within half an hour, brakes screeched below and the front door slammed. Rushing footsteps thundered up the stairs. My door burst open. Ethan stood windblown, suit jacket half on, tie askew, breathing hard, faint sweat at his temples. Seeing me half dead, the worry in his eyes was real. He strode to the bed and reached out to feel my forehead, but his hand froze halfway. Touch aversion was still the chasm he couldn't cross. In the end, he only pressed the back of his hand against the pillow beside me, feeling the heat rising from my body. You're burning. He frowned and pulled out his phone. I'll call the physician. Don't. I caught the hem of his shirt, shaking my head weakly. No shots. Just stay with me and I'll be fine. He stared at me, his gaze a tangle of helplessness, suspicion, and something else, an indulgence he hadn't even realized he possessed. Stop acting cute. The words were reprimand, but he didn't press the call button again. For the next hour, I milked full queen privileges. The almighty CEO of Sterling Corp now fumbled with his phone, Googling what to do for a cold. 1 minute he poured warm water and ordered me to drink. The next he marched to the kitchen and tried to brew the legendary ginger cola remedy, nearly torching the place. Finally, he presented a bowl of black, ominously reeking liquid. Face blank. Drink. I stared at the poison and almost cracked. I can't get it down. You will. His tone brooked no refusal. He scooped a spoonful and lifted it to my lips as if ready to pinch my nose and pour it down. On the verge of tears, I opened my mouth, and inspiration struck. I closed my eyes, let my head and started babbling. So hot. The fire's so big. Ethan's hand froze mid-feed. I felt the atmosphere around him shift instantly. I kept selling it, letting my body tremble, arms flailing. Don't be scared. Ethan, it's out. I found you. With every ounce of strength, I grabbed his hand. This time, he didn't pull away. The room fell deathly silent. I could hear his breathing roughen, peeking through my lashes. I saw him staring, eyes churning with shock, doubt, pain, and a fragile, incredulous hope. You. His voice cracked. What did you just say? Curtain time. I opened my eyes clear and bright, not a trace of fever. Sitting up, I clasped his hand and looked straight into his shaken pupils. I said, I found you. Ethan, do you remember the South Point Industrial District fire 10 years ago? His pupils shrank to pinpoints. The little girl you shoved free, then a beam fell and trapped you inside. Watching the blood drain from his face, I enunciated every word. That girl was me. Ethan froze, like a statue weathered for millennia. He stood rigid, only his quivering lashes betraying the storm inside. You. His lips parted, no sound emerging. I've searched for 10 years. My tears finally fell. No act this time. Just a decade-stored grievance and heartache. All I remembered was your Riverside Fire Department uniform. And your last words to me, run. Don't look back. I ran, heard the beam crash, turned, and saw only flames. I thought you were dead. I looked forever. Until last year when a Forbes finance profile showed your photo, and the same faint burn scar on your wrist as mine. I lifted his hand, rolled up my own sleeve. In the identical spot, two pale scars mirrored each other like a brand spanning a decade. So I came. I lifted my tear-streaked face to him. I engineered coincidence after coincidence. Got your father's attention. Forced you to marry me. Ethan, it was never for your money or the sterling name. I came to heal you. My confession detonated like fireworks in his already chaotic sky. Gazing from me to the matching scars. His eyes traveled from shock to dawning comprehension to something indescribable. At last he found his voice, gravel rough. So, the honey osmanthus cakes. I asked around. I knew they tasted like your mother's, like your memory, and the daily 1-minute hand-holding. I know the fire left you severe haphephobia. Doctors say the safest desensitization is with someone closest. I wanted to be that person. Every mystery unraveled in an instant. All his bewilderment, suspicion, vigilance, reduced to absurdity. He stared at the scheming woman who'd upended his life, only to discover she was the child he'd saved. Returned not to take, but to repay, to redeem. Ethan laughed suddenly, low, restrained, threaded with self-mockery and boundless desolation. As he laughed, his eyes reddened. He yanked me into a fierce, crushing embrace. The man who trembled at a fingertip now clutched me like reclaimed treasure, so hard I felt he'd fuse me to his bones. I sensed his scalding tears fall against my throat. Idiot, he whispered over and over beside my ear. You're the idiot. I hugged him back, sobbing like a child. The biggest idiot in the world. That afternoon we did nothing but hold each other. At last he'd opened his heart, and at last I'd hugged the hero I'd last seen 10 years ago. But the warmth didn't last. An uninvited guest interrupted. When the doorbell rang, I was curled in Ethan's arms while he haltingly recounted the decade between us. I opened the door to a sunny, handsome guy carrying a fruit basket. Stella, heard you were sick. Came to check. He grinned. Chase. My childhood neighbor and boy next door. Before I could speak, a glacial voice sounded behind me. Who is he? Ethan stood there in loungewear, hair mussed, yet exuding a Siberian chill. His eyes, sharp as twin blades, pinned Chase. Chase's smile stiffened. He scratched his head awkwardly. Hi, I'm Chase, Stella's friend. Stella? Ethan echoed the intimacy, a dangerous curve to his lips. Funny. I don't recall my wife having such close friends. He slid an arm around my waist and hauled me against him, broadcasting possession in one unmistakable gesture. The air reeked of jealousy. Chase. Why are you here? I tried to diffuse the tension. You didn't pick up. Got worried. Chase's gaze flicked to Ethan, something complicated passing through his eyes. Since your husband's on duty, I'll head out. He handed me the basket. Rest up. Call if you need anything. Sure. Drive safe. I shut the door, turned, and met Ethan's scowling perfection. Stella. He narrowed his eyes. Very affectionate. I almost laughed. Instead, I teased. What's wrong? Sterling? Jealous? No. Flat denial. But the clenched jaw betrayed him. No jealousy. I sighed theatrically. Right? Just a contract marriage. Who I'm friends with is none of your concern. I started up the stairs. A strong yank spun me around. The world tilted. He slammed me against the wall. Say that again. He loomed over me, palms bracketing my head, trapping me between cold plaster and his burning chest. In his deep eyes stormed currents I couldn't read. Dangerous. Enthralling. My heart pounded. I thought he would kiss me and squeezed my eyes shut. No kiss came, only a smothered chuckle. Mortified, I opened my eyes to his playful smirk. Didn't you promise marital duties? His voice was low, husky, lethal. Scared already? Who's scared? I flushed. Defiant. The man had learned to flirt and turn the tables. Not scared? His brow arched. His gaze slid to my trembling lips. Prove it. Prove. How? My mind blanked. Body acting on its own. I rose on tiptoe and crashed my mouth against the lips I'd craved for months. The world stopped. Ethan jolted rigid. Clearly my boldness surprised us both. My clumsy kiss rambled like a frantic fawn. When oxygen failed me I started to retreat, only to have a hand cup the back of my head and hold me captive. Then came a kiss that was nothing but pure conquest. A tidal wave of possession crashing over me. He pried my lips apart, storming every last defense until he'd stolen every breath, every shred of reason. This wasn't a tentative duel anymore. It was 10 years of buried longing erupting through the cracked earth, too dense to dissolve. I realized then that the blaze had never imprisoned him alone. After that runaway kiss, everything between Ethan and me flipped upside down. I used to be the one chasing. Now he'd turned into a full-time, clinging shadow. While I was still burrowed under the quilt at dawn, he'd already be seated on the mattress in his tailored suit, not to wake me, but to steal a good morning kiss before he left for the office. When I cooked at night, he'd sneak up, circle my waist, rest his chin on my shoulder, breathe in the steam, and sigh in contentment. Stella, what's for dinner? Stella, your hands smell amazing. Stella, I don't want to go to work. The CEO, once colder than an iceberg, had become a giant kid begging for candy in front of me. I used to force him to hold hands for 1 minute a day. Now, whenever we're in the same room, his fingers never let go. We link while we watch TV, while we stroll, and even when I slip into the bathroom he stations himself outside so he can reclaim my hand the instant I emerge. I teased. Sterling, when did you get so sticky? He'd hug me tighter and answer with perfect confidence. I'm making up for the decade we lost. He even engineered a textbook-worthy date. His assistant booked the hardest reservation in town at the Ivy, Los Angeles, rented the entire Hollywood Bowl for us, and arranged 999 red roses. Every detail looked lifted straight from a rom-com, except he sliced that steak with his fork in the wrong hand. In the theater, he never looked at the screen, only at me, and when he offered the bouquet his cheeks flamed while he stammered through love lines copied off the internet. Clumsy, yes, but unbearably adorable. Watching it all, my heart melted into pure sugar. That night, fresh from the shower, he lounged against the headboard reading documents, droplets still clinging to his carved stomach. Indecently sexy. I crept over like a kitten. Ethan. Then. I crooned, syrupy-voiced, draping myself across him. He froze, lowered the file, and eyed me helplessly. What now? My mischievous fingertip landed on the ridge of his abs and poked. Rock hard, better than premium foam. Lemme squeeze. His face flushed at lightning speed. Quit it. He trapped my wandering hand, a tremor of restraint in his voice. I'm gonna squeeze. I broke free, attacked with both palms as if kneading dough. Today at Sterling you chatted with that gorgeous new secretary for one whole extra sentence. You made me jealous. I was clearly picking a fight just to watch him squirm. He took the bait. He exhaled, fond exasperation flooding his eyes. Stella, any more kneading and I'll be out of commission. His voice was gravel, restraint cracking. Only then did I feel the air shift, something dangerously electric. I glanced up and met twin sparks blazing in his irises. My heart lurched. Before I could finish he flipped us, pinning me beneath him. You struck the match, he murmured against my ear, voice so low only I could hear. Tonight, you're not running. Outside, moonlight draped the room in soft, tangled silk. To cure Ethan for good, I made a decision. Take him back to the place everything started. South Point's derelict warehouse district had been reborn as South Point Commons, a maze of cafes, art studios, and graffiti. When I suggested it, his face drained. Do we have to? I squeezed his hand. Together, you can't live in that shadow forever. With me here, you have nothing to fear. He searched my eyes for a long moment, then nodded. We parked at the gate and walked in hand. Chic boutiques and murals had erased every scar, yet I recognized the largest gallery at once, the very shell that had once burned. The closer we stepped, the slower he moved. Sweat slicked his palm, his breath ragged. I stopped and wrapped him in my arms. Breathe, look at me. I cradled his face, forcing his gaze to anchor on mine. I'm right here, safe. So are you. My voice worked like an incantation. The chaos inside him ebbed. I'm sorry. His throat cracked. Back then I should have been braver. I shouldn't have left you alone. The fire had left him with scars far deeper than skin, an iron guilt that insisted he'd failed me. Nonsense. I thumped his chest, tears streaking my cheeks. You're the bravest man I've ever met. You saved me, gave me a second life. Know what I did the minute I woke up? I searched for you, but there was only ash. Everyone said the boy who rescued me was gone. I refused to believe it. I hunted 10 years. Every single day I rehearsed the moment I tell you you're not a failure. You're my hero, my one and only light. I rose on tiptoe and kissed the tears from his lashes. You rescued me. Now let me rescue you. Drop the fear and the blame. Okay? He stared through a shimmer of salt water, then crushed me to his chest and rasped. Okay. Sunlight shattered the clouds and poured over us. At last the inferno that had caged him for a decade was nothing but cold ash. Since the day at South Point Commons, a new calm lived in Ethan's eyes. He no longer flinched from contact. At Sterling Corp, he'd escort me through the lobby, our fingers laced, under the gawking stares of the entire staff. Just when I thought our days would stay dipped in honey, his assistant appeared, envelope in hand. Mr. Sterling, the CEO asked me to give you this. Inside lay divorce papers. My mind blanked. What is this? The assistant looked equally lost. He only said the 3 years are almost up. The world bottomed out. 3-year deadline. Clutching the document, I stormed into his office. He stood at the window, back to the door. Ethan, explain. I slammed the papers onto the desk, voice shaking. He turned, expression unreadable. Our contract has expired. So, my eyes burned. Cure achieved. Time to discard the tool. What am I to you? You bastard. Blinded by tears, I fled. I thought he'd chase. He didn't. I waited in the Lake Tahoe villa all night. He never came. My heart iced over, degree by degree. So every sweetness, every indulgence, had been make-believe. Once the clock struck, the fairy tale ended. Next morning I packed, dragging my suitcase downstairs. I froze on the last step. The living room had become an ocean of blush roses, petals carpeting the floor from doorway to fireplace. And there, in a white tailored suit, clutching my favorite sunflowers, Ethan knelt on one knee. Behind him stood the entire executive team, and Chase, my childhood friend, every face lit with conspiratorial smiles. I stammered, What is this? Ethan gazed up, tenderness overflowing, and unmistakable anxiety. He flicked open a velvet box. A diamond engagement ring flashed like captured starlight. Stella, he began, voice quavering. 3 years ago, I chained you to me with a cold contract. It was the smartest, cruelest thing I've ever done. Today, I want to spend the rest of my life correcting that mistake. I already tore up those divorce papers. We have no expiration date, ever. So, Stella, will you marry this healed fool and remain his medicine? His light for life? Tears cascaded. I couldn't halt them. I stared at the man I'd loved and redeemed for 10 long years, and nodded with everything I had. Yes. Trembling, he slid the ring home, rose, and folded me into an embrace that swallowed the world. Applause and cheers exploded around us. Stella, he whispered into my hair. From now on I'll hold your hand every single day of our lives. Deal? Smiling through happy sobs, I burrowed closer. Deal. Beyond the windows the sun hung flawless and bright. Our story has only just begun. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's tale, please like and share. We can't wait to read your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories. See you next time.